Salut, bonjour, and welcome back to another JustDisc video. Today, I thought it would be a great opportunity to give you guys a more official and up-to-date in the bag review for 2021. So let's get into it. In total, I carry around 25 discs, and depending on the course, I may take some out or swap some for other discs. It's really just course dependent. Now, most of the discs that I throw are from Innova, and it's really just a brand that I grew up with. I know their molds, I know their flight chart, but I'm not against swapping out for different brands if I find that I get better performance out of different discs. As for the weights of my discs, my putters, mid-ranges, as well as my fairway drivers are all max weight because those discs are more about control rather than distance. But when I get into my distance drivers, anything above a 10 speed, I need to have a little bit lighter. Just because I get better performance, I get more distance, I really get more out of the disc, and that's really something that everybody should keep in mind when they're looking to buy a fast distance driver. Get it a bit lighter, you're gonna get better performance. All right, it's now time to see what's in my bag for 2021. So we're gonna start off with my go-to putter. It's been my go-to putter since I began playing disc golf 15 years ago, the Innova Aviar. It has the perfect amount of stability, it flies straight and has a subtle fade to finish, so it's just something that you can always guarantee when you're putting with this disc. And another thing is that it's just not too overstable, so really good when you're trying to do a very far out putt or even a jump putt and you need to get a little bit more glide. It's nice that it's not too overstable and it'll hang in the air. Now personally, I prefer this disc in the star plastic. I know a lot of people like base plastics for their putters, but it works for me for two reasons. The first is that I love the grip of the star. It works extremely well, especially on those hot days. And another reason for this plastic is just that it keeps the stability for as long as possible. And that's vital when you're trying to putt consistently. The last thing that I want is to start thinking, is it the disc that's, beating in a little too quickly, or am I just getting worse at putting, right? I don't want any of those thoughts. I just want to take this putter, use it, and know that it's going to fly the way I need it to. So now let's look at my approach discs, and these are specifically meant for throwing both backhand and forehand. My first and really go-to approach disc is the Castaplast BERG. We recently did a very detailed review on this disc as well as Castaplast plastic, so make sure you check it out. But basically, it's become one of my favorite discs and really my go-to for approaching the basket. You can throw it as hard as you want. It wants to drop out of the air. You can make excellent runs at the basket. It feels incredible with this thumb track groove, and you can throw it both forehand and backhand, and it has incredible stability. It's so hard to throw it too far or to lose it too much to the left or right. I love it in the K1 plastic. It just has that premium feel with really excellent grip. Absolutely love this disc. Everybody needs a BERG. Now the last approach disc that I have, which really complements the BERG, is none other than the Innova PIG. I really like this disc for hyzers, either backhand or forehand, or just really hard thrown shots where I need it to fly flat for quite a way, but still have that nice fade finish. Now, considering the BERG is not really a big fade type disc where you can really release it on a big hyzer, that's the reason why I got the PIG. Forehand and backhand hyzer shots, fade shots, I'm using this, and for anything else, then I'm gonna be using that BERG. So now let's look into my mid-ranges, and for mid-ranges, it's all about control and not power. So I typically like premium plastic to keep that stability, to keep that consistency for as long as possible. So the first mid-range that I carry is the Innova King Cobra, a super underrated, overstable mid-range disc. It's a 4-speed, but it has a 2 fade. So you throw it with some aggressiveness and it's just gonna fly straight. It doesn't waver too much. Absolutely love this disc for hyzer flips. So power players are gonna love this. Put it on a nice hyzer, put some power, and it's gonna ride straight. It will hold a turn if you beat it in enough, but any kind of straight gaps where I just need it to stay stable and straight, going for the King Cobra. The next mid-range that I carry is the Innova Mako 3. I've spoken so much about this disc. It's a great one-round disc. If somebody's just getting into the game, they don't want a starter pack, get them a Mako 3. This disc is really just meant for straight shots. If you have bad form, it's definitely gonna show it. It really just goes where you release it. For me, I've really changed my use of this disc over time. I typically now use this more as like a utility approach disc where I need to get through some tree line gaps, forehand or backhand. You know, I just needed to keep a specific line. The Mako 3 is going to do that for me. So it's a great disc. Be sure to check it out if you haven't already. The next mid-range that I carry is the Innova Rock 3, and very similar to the King Cobra, but a little bit faster and more fade, and there's a reason why this is a very popular disc. That 0.3 makes it so that you can do so many different shots with it, especially when you've beaten one in. I love it for hyzer flipping. I love it for slight flex shots as well at like slower speeds or even just nose up slight flex shots. So it's very versatile, many uses. I really only use it for backhands, forehands. It's just not torque resistant enough, but any kind of mid-range approach shots, the Rock 3 is usually a good go-to. And the last mid-range that I carry, but probably my favorite, one of my go-tos, is the Innova Caiman. I absolutely adore this disc. We did a very detailed review on this disc just because I love it so much, and it's just a very overstable mid-range disc. It really is an error correcting type disc because of that strong fade. So even if you miss your line a little bit, it's still going to have that trusty hard fade back to the target, and backhands it does just as well. So for me, it's great for power forehands, big hyzer backhands, or even flex shots. I'm using my Caiman, and out of all my mid-ranges, it's this disc that has definitely parked the basket the most. It's given me the most birdies. It's just a great disc. It's only been out since 2018, so I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. Let's now move into my fairway drivers, which is all about controlled distance. The first fairway driver that I bag is the Innova Leopard 3. I prefer it in the Champion just to have as much strength, stability as possible since it does like to turn, but that's really what this disc is all about. It's about giving you control. So if I need to throw a backhand straight, I'll just throw it at a semi-good speed and it's gonna fly straight. If I put a little extra power into it, it'll get some turn, and it also holds anti-hyzer turnover shots well. So it really just gives me that control that I'm looking for. It will also fade back a little bit if you want it to. It just depends on the shot shape that you're looking for. All in all, it's a great disc, and we're planning on putting this disc in our next 3 discs. Every Disc Golfer Should Have Part 2, so be on the lookout for it. Awesome, all skill level disc. The next fairway driver that I bag is the Innova Teebird in the Star Plastic. I love this disc. It's one of the most popular fairway drivers that's out there, and so many other discs are compared to this disc. It just has a trusty fade throughout the entire flight. You throw it flat, it's gonna have a nice fade back, slow but steady. If you turn it over a little bit, it's still gonna have that trusty fade back. So you can do flex shots, you can do hyzer flips. I love it for forehand and backhand. For me, it's just in that perfect speed range where I can do pretty much anything dependent on the power and the release angle. It's an excellent disc, highly recommended to a lot of people. So the next fairway drivers that I bag are 3 different discs that are used for utility type shots. So what I mean by that is they're for specific scenarios. I don't use them that often unless I see that I need it for that instance. The first fairway utility driver that I have is the Innova Firebird. I'm sure you've heard of it. Very popular disc, more so in the Star Plastic, but it's a lovely disc for getting out of trouble. It has a massive fade, especially this one. I think this is more overstable than it should be, 177 grams as well. It loves to skip, loves to get around those corners for forehands and backhands, so I'm only pulling this out when I'm really trying to get around to a target or trying to get out of trouble. Great disc, everybody needs a nice skip disc. The next fairway utility disc that I bag is the Innova Mystere, and you guys know that Lindsay absolutely loves this disc. It's her big distance driver, and she can also do some shot shaping with it, but this is actually my lightest disc. It's 168 grams, and the main use, well, 2 uses, is for uphill shots. Lighter the disc is, the farther it's gonna go up the hill. Another thing that I'm trying to use it for is rollers, trying to get a little bit better at those. The other use that I also find is for big hyzer flips. When you have a lot of room to work with, it works well for that. The last fairway utility driver that I bag is the Innova Sidewinder. We did a video, 3 discs every disc golfer should have, because this disc is a multi-skill level disc. A lot of different skill levels can use it, but really its use for me, it's very similar to the Mystere, more uphill or just casual S shots where I don't need to throw it as hard, but I still need a shot shape. This is when I use this disc, but I would say it's my least thrown disc. Still a great disc, but something that I've kind of been phasing out slowly over time. Finally, it's time to get into the distance drivers. So the first distance driver that I bag, and pretty much my workhorse for the distance drivers, is the Innova Wraith. I prefer it in the Star Plastic because it beats in beautifully, and the Star Plastic just throws so well. We did a video on this saying to put down the Destroyer and pick up a Wraith, and it couldn't be more true. For me, it's just very controlled, gets me a lot of distance. I can hyzer flip my more understable one compared to the overstable one. You can do little flex shots with a little nose up. It'll fly straight, but it always has that trusty fade back. Similar to the Destroyer, but not as pronounced. Love it. Always throwing this when I'm trying to get controlled distance. The next distance driver that I bag is the Innova Destroyer in the Star Plastic. This is the Ricky Wysocki Raptor stamp. I know this run was a little bit more overstable, but pretty much the Destroyer for me is for power forehands. I can get this thing pretty flat, and considering I've beaten it in quite a bit, it'll definitely go flat and still have that trusty fade back. When there's wind, I'm definitely using this instead of the Wraith, but really it's just whenever I need a little bit more fade in the Wraith, I'm going for the Destroyer, and I typically just throw this for forehands. The next distance driver that I bag is pretty much my max distance disc. It's the Innova Shryke. Now, when I need more distance, and I'm not worried about controlling the disc as much like I do with the Wraith, I'm bringing out the Shryke. And backhand and forehands, it works perfect. Anything pretty much that I want, except obviously big fades or hyzer shots, it's really good for. It just has a nice amount of turn that comes with ease, even when you put it with a little nose up, and people shouldn't shy away from this disc if they're worried that it's gonna turn too much. If you get it in a heavy enough weight with, a good premium plastic, you're gonna bomb this disc. It's great. And finally, the last distance driver that I bag, the first disc that I ever bought, which I don't recommend, the Innova Boss in the Champion Plastic. I have it almost at max weight, 174 grams. Now, for me, it flies very similar to my Destroyer, except it has a beautiful skip finish. And really, this is my fast speed skip finish type disc. And because I've beaten it in and used it for so long, I can throw it aggressively flat, I can do a flex shot, but again, I get that trusty skip finish. So it's really a one-of-a-kind disc for me. It's really been a workhorse for my disc golf career, I guess you would say, and I just always love this disc. Hope to never lose it. Well, there you have it, guys. That's what's in my bag. I've been using this setup for quite some time now and have developed some consistency to use this bag pretty much at all the courses that I play. Now, if you're looking to pick up any of these discs, be sure to check out the links in the description of this video. Thanks as always for watching JustDisc, guys. We absolutely love this community. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and check out our Patreon for more exclusive JustDisc content. And speaking on the matter, if you have any suggestions or ideas, we are always willing to hear you out. Thanks as always for watching JustDisc. We'll see you in the next one. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.